everyone, welcome to Without a Crystal Ball. This is Katie Joy, as you know. Today we're going to talk about and take a deeper dive into something that I brought up yesterday in a reaction video or a string of consciousness video as I digested and processed information that had been put out on another channel on YouTube by another creator named Brenda, who runs a channel called God is Gray. I have been a longtime viewer of Brenda's. I find her to be compassionate, loving. She takes and tackles very tough issues from a very kind and loving place. She talks about things that nobody wants to talk about. And sometimes she unearths things that we don't want to see, but we need to see. And sometimes those things that she uncovers involve people that are in the public eye that we didn't know existed. In a video that she published earlier in the week, she shared the story of Stell. Stell is the daughter of Matt and Lisa Jacobson, and Stell claims that her father is teaching extremely harmful practices to the individuals that he mentors. And someone that her father mentors are Jeremy and Audrey Roloff. If you are familiar with reality television, you know that the Roloff family of Matt and Amy and their children have been on our televisions for more than a decade. The show went off the air for a period of time and then came back. And in 2018, Jeremy and Audrey left the show because they said that they were going to be pursuing another venture. They were going to slow things down. They were going to, they were going to do things differently. And what came from that was they launched a website, the Roloffs. They launched a podcast called Behind the Scenes. They wrote a book about love letters and a marriage journal. And they are now hosting a weekly podcast where they go through marriage advice, life advice, parenting advice. And on their podcast, they have guests who seem to be part of the same faith community that they belong to and ascribe to the same belief systems. Over the years, Reddit has been following and tracking what they've done. Little Instagram pages have cropped up trying to point out some of the things that these two have been sharing. And a lot of concern has been around the individuals that they are claiming to be their mentors. Now, in the video that Brenda published, it was Stell, the daughter of Matt and Lisa, claiming that her father was doing extremely terrible things to the children. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I will link her full video down here. Obviously, the interview was very compelling. Brenda was able to verify that this was their daughter, Stell. The daughter is sort of estranged from the family, from my understanding, and is only really connected to them because she has siblings that still live in the home. But Stell says that the world in which she lived in was a twisted one where her father had sole control, her mother was complicit and complacent to what her father did, and it sometimes allowed her father to do things that he should not have done, and that her father was using his sort of influence to mentor other people to follow a doctrine that he had designed which he calls the faithful man. Matt and Lisa Jacobson host a blog. They also host a podcast where they talk about parenting, child-rearing, biblical life, cultural issues, and they also host people in which they mentor. Jeremy and Audrey are actually prominently featured on their website and were mentees of Matt and Lisa Jacobson. And in their testimonial on their website, they said Jeremy and Audrey Roloff, authors of Love Letter Life and Behind the Scenes podcast, said Matt and Lisa have been foundational to our growth and development, not just as a couple, but as individuals. We're so thankful for them. Their wisdom and experience has been a true blessing in our life, and we know it will be for yours. The caveat is that Matt will mentor you for a price because every year he mentors a handful of people about his practices. So on his website, as you can see, they offer a parenting and their parenting and coaching is coming soon. But on their website, you'll see that they are offering biblical marriage advice. And he will work with you for a price and teach you what he believes are the best practices in marriage. He also writes blogs where he talks about child rearing and he talks about discipline and how simple things like Johnny not coming over when you want him to, Johnny not touching things you don't want them to, Johnny not eating his dinner, Johnny not throwing food on the floor, Johnny whining, and Johnny acting like an average 3-year-old created quite a spectacle when they tried to have friends over for dinner. And he calls Johnny a tyrant. In the blog post, Matt writes, some parents think defiant behavior in their young children is cute, but it isn't cute. It's a window into the future, your future. And what is cute at 2 is dreadful at 16. You may have the will and power to control your defiant child today and when it really matters to you. But at the time will soon pass. At some point, your child will realize that they are no longer have the power to control. The early childhood years go by like a comet in the night sky. What then? You're not raising a young child, you're training an adult, and the character you instill in a young child is the foundation for life that he will lead. Defiant kids become willful adults. It isn't cute. Some parents are tired or lazy. Being an on-point parent is time-consuming and exhausting. At times, it's just plain hard. You're right in the middle of something and a simple request, Johnny, come here, turns into a battle. Sometimes we don't want to bother. We're busy. We're in the middle of something important. I'll let it pass this time, we tell ourselves, but this time has a way of becoming every time. And then he instructs people that they should follow steps so that children do not disobey them. Tell yourself the truth about what you're doing. Stop accepting the unacceptable. The Bible says that the rebellion is the sin of witchcraft. Address disrespect every time it appears, whether it's convenient or not. Tell yourself, I will never again let my child disrespect go unchecked. Let love motivate your discipline. Discipline that is done without love is sinful. We are admonished to speak the truth in love. Without it, hearts will become hard. Examine your own heart and parenting to ensure that you do not do things that exasperate your child and drive him to become more defiant. To address the issue of disrespect in your child, seek God's favor for taking the challenge to him in prayer. Matt Jacobson thinks that an average child being, a child is defiance, and an average child of a 3-year-old whining, throwing food on the floor, not listening, touching a vase, wandering around is inconvenient, and it didn't allow him and his wife to do a Bible study and mentor a couple that they desperately wanted to mentor. And because of that, he became so irritated that he clearly needed to write a blog where he referred to the child as a tyrant, defiant, and that it's a parent's responsibility to discipline their child. It's concerning for a number of reasons, because Jeremy and Audrey Roloff are a part of this community. And not only is he telling people that they should discipline their child, but it's the form of discipline that he's suggesting. He suggests and coaches and teaches, according to his daughter Stell, the book by Michael and Debbie Pearl called To Train Up a Child. If you know this book, we've covered it on this channel. It is one in which they instruct parents to use a PVC pipe as a form of discipline. Now, Stell discussed in her interview all of the times and all of the things that went on, and she at times said her father seemed to have pleasure and enjoy what he was doing to his children, and that any minor infraction could result in in using that pipe. She claimed that they had at least 7 of them, and she said that anyone that her father mentors is teaching and instructing this form of discipline on a child. Obviously, with this being said, when Brenda posted this photo or posted this video, there was a large outcry because you have people that are on Instagram promoting this sort of idealistic way of life, a biblical life of mothers and daughters and wives that are at home and Betty homemakers. And Matt Jacobson on his website also takes issue with women. Women should not have authority over man. In fact, in a blog post he wrote, a controlling wife has a bit of an ugly ring to it, doesn't it? No woman wants a reputation for being controlling in her marriage. Is this even a problem in marriages where two people claim to be following God and his word? Yes, it is. And as Lisa says, it is far more pervasive reality than what wives want to admit. When it comes to being controlling, where are you at? Not what do you want to be true, but where are you really at? Do you struggle with control? Are you a controlling wife? And as the husband, what is your perspective about the state of your relationship? Are you passive? Are you being manipulated and controlled? Do you lead? The patterns we walk in can become so comfortable we don't even realize how far we've deviated from the instruction in Scripture, how destructive we've become to our own marriage. So he, through his Instagram feed, promotes this very life of the wife at home. Man answers to God, woman answers to man. A woman's jurisdiction is in the home to take care of the child, to rear the children, and the father has total authority over the family. We have seen similar things like this in the world, like the Duggars, and this appears to be not what we would call fundamentalism, but rather a reformist movement trying to get back to biblical teachings, but with a modern spin. And they're using Instagram through people like Jeremy and Audrey Roloff to promote these ideals. But what we see on Instagram is not necessarily what Stell says is being taught in practice. Now, if you're wondering whether or not Audrey and Jeremy have a relationship with them, I want to have you listen to a clip really quick. And in this, I'd like to tell you that this is Jeremy and Audrey on the podcast of Matt and Lisa Jacobson, and they are talking about control and what issue they have had to overcome in their relationship.
Yeah, just in terms of your marriage and
that's a good question.
Just over the course of almost
That's a hard
5
question
years.
on the spot.
I know, right? That's why.
Hardest thing I've ever had to get over. Do you know from me?
Yeah.
Do you know from
I
me?
think I've had to get over.
Well, you would know if it was, if it was hard for me to get over.
Yeah. Control.
No. I would say, okay.
Audrey likes to, you're a super strong woman, strong-willed, and with that has come definitely some my way or the highway, I control tactics in which she engages with her relationships and lives out life. And I would say a lot of those have been challenged in the first 5 years of our marriage because they don't necessarily work in the context of marriage. I would say that's been a difficult process and a very healthy process for you. Not to say you've lost any of yourself, but you have been wrestling with I think some of that.
I have a tendency to, like, firstborn child, very driven, very determined, like, run out ahead, and,
You're
like,
an 8.
take on the leadership role because I'm just naturally inclined to that and have had to learn to not be that in our marriage. And God gave me actually, like, this, like, very clear just picture at the beginning of the year of, like, letting Jeremy be my forerunner. And, like, if you think about, like, a race, like, I was a ski racer and a runner, and, like, pacers and forerunners, they, like, go out ahead and they pace the way for you, and they're not there to compete against you. They're actually there to help you run the race better. And they're just right there, a couple steps ahead, you know what I mean? But running with you, but, like, you're letting them lead you, and trusting that they're going to pace the right pace and that they're going to go the right line on the course or whatever it is. And I think that's been something that, like, this year I've tried to just
Well, listen.
Jeremy went on to talk about how he is not naturally inclined to be a leader, and he struggles with this as they try to apply the context of a biblical marriage as taught to them by Matt and Lisa Jacobson. As you note and you heard, Audrey said that her natural inclination is to be a go-getter and to be a leader. And because of the teachings they've been taught, she is fighting against who she is. And the way that Jeremy said, well, I know what something is. I know what something is that you fight about. I know what the problem is. control. And he says it very sort of, it seems to me be very uncomfortable. But it also seems to be a issue that's so large in their relationship that he says it has been a struggle for 5 years to get her to realize that she is not in control. And she admits it is a struggle for her to not want to control things and to allow him to lead her. Because you guys, in reality, you can't be what your personality is not. And if you are a natural born leader who likes to take things on and move forward and make decisions, to allow yourself to take a submissive role will not only suppress who you are, but you do lose yourself. And Jeremy says, but you haven't really lost yourself. Well, has she? If her natural inclination is to be someone who is, as she says, a born leader, to not be, what is that doing to her spirit? It would change her. And the fact that they're talking about and implementing practices in which Matt writes about on his blog has a lot of people wondering, well, if they're implementing the biblical marriage into their home, are they doing the other forms of discipline in which Matt talks about on his website? Now, in the video, they did not say that Jeremy and Audrey have done anything. In fact, there was not any sort of suggestion that they had. But people are wondering because Stell insists that this is what her father instructs parents to do when he mentors them. And these two are on their website saying, we are mentored by this man. Now, if you wonder whether or not Jeremy is all in, here is actually a photo of Jeremy wearing the Faithful Man t-shirt. Jeremy is rocking merch that is actually from Matt Jacobson's site. Matt Jacobson runs the Faithful Man podcast and blog on his website along with his Instagram page. And then if you wonder how connected Audrey and Jeremy are to Matt Jacobson, given the levity of these allegations, here is a photo from his Instagram from earlier in mid-2019 where they were on the podcast, in which I actually just played for you. That was from July of 2019, where he talks about their marriage struggles and what they do every week to keep their marriage happy. Now, Lisa has her own Instagram page as well. On her page, which is called Club 31 Women, Lisa does a ministry for women. One of the things that Matt Jacobson teaches and has posted on his Instagram is that women should respect men no matter what, and that a wife must respect her husband at all costs and at all authority. That it's the husband's decision no matter what. Now, she says in a post that's not aging very well considering what Stell has revealed, she says, parents, make sure that you communicate how thrilled you are with your children. They need to know that you believe in them and that the confidence plans God has for them. Knowing that Stell has made a lot of claims about her father, she has said that her mother was not a participant in it but allowed it. Is this quote actually kind of sits stuck in my heart, thinking, on Instagram you can look like this loving mother, but your daughter Stell says otherwise. Now, not only do Matt and Lisa have their Instagram sort of presence, but it's also Jeremy and Audrey that are sort of following in their footsteps, and they've created their own Instagram page, Beating 50%, where they share photos of their family and they talk about parenting and marriage. Now, mind you, this is a very newly married couple. They also promote the book in which they wrote about a love letter life. Matt has somehow crafted this belief system from I'm not sure where. He doesn't claim to have any sort of seminary training. He says he attended seminary or went to some sort of online school for a year, but he has no accredited seminary degree and appears to not have a very educated read on the Bible. What it appears has happened here is that Matt is a self-admitted publisher. He said he worked in the publishing industry for over 20 years, and he has teamed up with other people who have internet experience, and it appears that this network of individuals are working together to disseminate information that is the construct of Matt, the teachings of Matt, under different umbrellas and different people. video by Brenda, but they also brought up other families. They brought up Jeremy and Audrey Roloff, the Tulpins, and the Partridges. Now, if you wonder how connected these people are, I'd like to show you something interesting that I've located when I'm looking through their websites. Now, this is the website for Matt Jacobson's Faithful Man. He says that he's a biblical marriage coach, coaching and mentoring, which says that he is, like I said, he'll do coaching. And there is Audrey and Jeremy on his website, which is that picture that I showed you. And then they have a photo of Aaron and Jennifer Smith, who appear to be another couple that are a part of this. On his website, he offers articles on marriage, on parenting. He offers coaching. He has a store where you can buy books from them. They recently published a 100 Words of Affirmation, and they offer other products through their Faithful Man store. And their articles focus on, as you can see, what are you tolerating from your toddler? Are you giving God a bad reputation with your kids? No disrespecting mommy or daddy ever. Now, if you wonder how connected these people are, if you go to Audrey's page and Jeremy's page, they have the Roloffs. Their behind the scenes podcast includes people that are prominently discussed and featured, the Tulpins. So on this episode 76, Homeschooling and Parenting Wisdom with the Tulpins, they sat down with the Tulpins who run Courageous Parenting and talked more about homeschooling. In the description, they say that Isaac and Angie Tulpin are the Roloffs' go-tos for anything parenting. They have 8 kids of their own and have dedicated their lives to helping other Christian families navigate life well. They are passionate about equipping courageous Christian kids for uncertain worlds, and this episode is so timely considering what's been going on. And they shared like these clips and quotes from the family. They talk about homeschooling in this. They talk about why they homeschool. So they feature these families on their podcast, and they appear to have an interconnected group of people that they feature that are all sort of doing the exact same thing. And then if you go to Courageous Parenting, which is run by Angie and Isaac Tulpin, who was just on their channel or on their podcast, Angie and Isaac run a self-paced parenting mentor program, kind of like the mentoring program that the Jacobsons do for marriage. They offer the parenting pace. So it appears as though the Jacobsons are doing this is how you are married and this is how you discipline, and these people are doing a self-paced mentoring program. It's a 6-week online program with modules that covers theology, heart, purity, obedience, discipleship, and courage. They have videos that you can watch, and it costs $2.99 for a couple, and a small group is $2.99 plus $79 per couple. And then prominently featured as someone going through this with a testimonial is Dale and Veronica Partridge, who say, for some reason, the church seems afraid to talk about parenting, and young couples everywhere are lost. Isaac and Angie speak biblical truth regarding child raising, and it will change your home forever. Now, Dale and Veronica Partridge were prominently featured in this video as well, because Stell insists that her parents have a close relationship with them, and Brenda has featured Dale because of his problematic beliefs about marriage and a wife's position in the family, along with some of his troubling beliefs about child rearing. Now, if you go to Dale's website, look at that. Dale and Veronica, they offer a build a biblical marriage program. Oh, look, 6 weekly lessons, private online communities, theology, roles, sex, money, children, purpose. Oh, and look, who is someone that's gone through their program? Jeremy and Audrey Roloff. Dale and Veronica have been an inspiration to our marriage. They are 2 people who we are truly walking out their biblical roles with love, understanding, and eloquence. This program will be a blessing to many. His pricing, average cost of divorce, he says, is $21,000. Average cost of counseling is $1,320, and he is going to offer you this course for $199. And if you notice, it has a very similar format as what Angie is offering for hers. It appears as though the same person is setting these up for both of them. They appear to have the same questions and answers, the same formats, the same language. So as you can see, this is a unit. These 4 families are very interconnected. They're found on each one of their websites. They're offering similar programs. Dale and they're all offering mentoring programs that have a fee and a price with modules. They all seem to be created by one person, which has a lot of people thinking, is this a pyramid scheme? Are Matthew and Lisa selling a mentorship program, which then plugs them into a pipeline, which then gets them further down the pipe? And are Audrey and Jeremy new to this and they're just doing their books first? Oh, that's right. All of these people write books. They all host blogs and all of them have podcasts. Yes, all of them. And each one of their podcasts covers the exact same topics and has the same people on them. They all go on each other's podcasts. They all are testimonials for one each other. So it's this appearance as though so many people are encouraged by this, and yet all of these people seem to be doing the exact same thing. So is this some sort of scheme, religious MLM? I don't know. I'd have to actually have more documentation. But the appearance is that these 4 families are extremely connected because they're all on each other's pages. Up until 2019, Dale and Matt were planning to write a book together. Now, what's going on with Jeremy and with Audrey? Given the backlash, they're not saying anything, nothing at all. People are questioning them, asking them to say, like, are you still mentored by Matt Jacobson? Will you please make a statement? Are you being mentored by this man who advises people to do these things? Could you please comment on this? So many, stop deleting comments. Please address this. Hoping you will all respond with a statement. I'm worried for you. If you're doing these things and are being mentored by him, please don't delete this. I love you guys. I buy so much. Always more merch. And I listen to your podcast religiously. But what is up with your mentors being this way with children? So many of these, so many comments across all of their social medias, and yet it's been utterly silent. Brenda, God is Great, who I had the opportunity to speak to in length this afternoon, who is an absolutely lovely person, she shared these on her Insta story. As a result of your pleas, we received 2 responses. Thank you for I stand with Stell, and thank you for magnifying our voices and for raising your own. As a result, this is what has come out. Courageous Parenting put this in comments in a Google Doc, so it was extremely difficult for their fans to find, but they said, we listened to the entire episode and our hearts go out to Stell. It is devastating for us to hear her testimony. If what Stell is describing happened, it is a horrendous and tragic. It is clear that she has been very hurt and our heart hurts for her. It is the opposite of what we believe regarding marriage and parenting. It's also not what exists within our family culture. It is deeply unfortunate we were included in this episode with no prior contact to us at all. It took a couple days to respond because of our initial shock and conversation with our attorney. Every mention of us in the context of this narrative is clear defamation of character, twisting things that we've said out of context, and the blatant lies by Stell and Brenda about us. Stell did not grow up with us around. We lived in Portland and the Jacobsons lived in Central Oregon. We attended church with the Jacobson family for a very short period of time during our 20 years of marriage. We have no way of knowing if this happened as we didn't know them while Stell was growing up. During the time we did not go to church with them, during the time that we did go to church with them, their youngest was 10 years old. We don't go to church with the Jacobsons, and the church we attend has no affiliation with churches Matt Jacobson and Dale Partridge go to. We have never said Matt Jacobson were our mentors. We despise the depictions we saw in your video about Michael and Debbie Pearl, and we are vehemently against what they teach. We never gave Brenda permission to use our kids' images. We do believe women are absolutely equal and valuable. If anyone listens to our podcast, they will clearly see this. We also believe God designed marriage with different roles, but no way should have the difference lead to lesser treatment of the other. We have raised our daughters to be strong and capable, and they are independent thinkers who will have great impact on the world. So essentially what they are saying is they are denying everything. Dale and Veronica Partridge did the exact same thing, and it again is clear that these people are connected. So despite the assertion that they are not connected, these people seem to be connected, and I'm not sure why they're acting like they're not, because both released almost identical statements through Google Drives, which were difficult to find, and links at times were broken. The Partridges, again, said that they had not been a part or connected to the Jacobsons for years, which is not true, and I'll show you why. They said that Brenda did not contact them. They don't ascribe to Michael and Debbie Pearl's book. Basically just say that it's all a lie and that they are loving, gospel-centered parents, and everything that we've heard about them is wrong. So this is what Brenda said in response was, she said, Dale and Matt Jacobson hosted a podcast together until 2019, and as of May 2020, the Relearn Church website promoted a book co-authored by Matt and Dale. Dale was writing a book with Matt Jacobson. The snapshot cached version is by Google on May 19th, 2020. It has since been deleted. This is actually like a clip that shows the May 19th timestamp along with the description of the book they were writing. She also said that Audrey and Jeremy Roloff continued to delete comments and ignore the allegations. None of these couples have denounced corporal punishment. And then she shared a Bible verse, I have come into the world as light, so whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness. And then she shared comments from individuals that were concerned. And there's as you can see, when they're asking for questions, he shared a link, which links don't work if you put it into Instagram. You'd actually have to go to a desktop on Instagram and then copy it and then plug it into your links. He could have shared this as a story. He did not, which has a lot of people thinking he's trying to make this hard to see so he doesn't alert his fans about this video. She says that Stell alleges that these things happened within the last 2 years, and that Matt has made statements on training children in 2020. And Matt and Lisa continue to promote their books while ignoring all the allegations. So it's a very tangled web. They all claim they don't know each other, but they're all, as I've shown you, interconnected and are appearing to offer the same programs with a very similar spin of biblical marriage. Now, they talk about biblical discipline. Even Matt talks about that on his blog of needing to use the rod. With that being said, nobody is alleging that Audrey and Jeremy are doing these things, but the silence coming from these two is what has so many people concerned. The other two couples have said this is not true. Jeremy and Audrey have said nothing, and apparently the rumor is that they are not going to respond. They don't want to respond, and they're going to allow this to die down and hope that it goes away. Now, these two have a book coming out, so they might not want this sort of publication and this sort of information coming out. But I think if we have public figures involved in things like this, it's a duty that people call things out like Brenda did, and then it's a duty of someone like me who covers this show to expressly show you what Brenda has shown, the evidence that these people are connected, and to show to you blogs from his website that tell people about discipline. And then you have Jeremy and Audrey saying these are our mentors and we've learned so much from them. TLC has a habit of placing these individuals and fundamentalists on their network under the guise of being wholesome Christian families. There is nothing wholesome or Christian about these teachings, and this is not at all biblical. What they're teaching is ABUSE, hiding behind the guise of flowery messages on Instagram. And whether or not Jeremy and Audrey are doing things physically, the things in which they're talking about with marriage having women submit, to making men lead, to women having to give up control. All of these are harmful. So, do you let this die, or do you ask them and plead with them to speak out? Are you going to allow them to silently walk away and act as though this doesn't exist and launch their book with not an issue? I'm not suggesting that you go and harass or interfere in any way with these people's lives, but when things like this come to light, people need to be held accountable. How that's done, I don't know. But I know that by sharing this story and further propelling it into the media, perhaps we can get more people to talk about this and get this, whatever this is, this Instagram cult, it seems, brought to light, because everything that's done in darkness will eventually have to come to light. And if this is being used to hurt people, we need to know. Again, I'm making no statements that anyone here is doing these things, and I'm only going off based what Stell has said. I'm going to link the video below of Brenda's video with Stell, where you can hear in her own words what it was like growing up with her father, along with the connection and how her father teaches and mentors people in his group. All right, you guys, tell me what your thoughts are. Do the Roloffs need to speak out? Why aren't they saying anything? And will it die down? And is it okay to be using flowery Instagram posts to promote this type of dogma?